Hey everyone, so this is a video that I wanted to create sharing how I developed a class that I got to teach at Google, Sony, and Salesforce. So around 2007, I got really excited about chocolate after going to a talk that was all about the history of chocolate, how it's made, etc. So for about 4 years, I made chocolate for fun and sold a little bit online, but basically got good at the process of making chocolate. And that's what got me inspired to then teach a class in how to do it. The very first class that I did was in San Francisco, and I was expecting maybe 3 or 4 people to show up, and it ended up getting, I think, 17. And it was a kind of mixed experience. In my mind, a lot of things went wrong, but from the perspective of people that were there, people told me that they really loved it, and it was maybe even one of the best classes that they had taken in a while or ever. And so I kept putting those classes together, and over the next year or two, I basically did those classes, and I started to get people coming up to me asking me to put them together at their company. And that's how it started to expand into doing company events. For me, this class was a lesson in getting really good at something, being really passionate about it, and then putting it out there. And sometimes you feel like you're not ready yet, but kind of learning as you go. One of the other lessons that I took from this class is my original idea based on some things I had heard was that this class was sort of going to be a great way to then sell a lot of chocolate to people at the end. And that's financially how a lot of these classes, at least in the chocolate world, kind of grow. And after the very first class, even though it was a huge success, I basically, didn't really sell much chocolate. And in watching people's behavior over the course of doing these classes, so I ended up doing a couple more that year, kept doing it for many, many years after, ultimately shifted towards focusing on company events because they became easier to manage. And almost every company, maybe even every company that I did an event for, which were some huge companies, all reached out to me to do it. And I think that came from the word of mouth, from people just having a great time at these classes, and that it being kind of unique because it came from something I was just excited and passionate about, which ultimately I think is what people really want. People want to learn something from somebody else that's really excited about it. That's been my experience with the classes that I've really loved. So going back to what I learned just doing these classes is in what people were saying to me after. Like, for example, there was someone that came up to me after a class and said, is there a way that my sister who is in Alabama could get to make chocolate the same way that I did, even though she's never going to make it out here. And so I started to put together ingredients and instructions in a box where people could send it as a gift, and that became a chocolate making kit. And I started to really focus on that rather than selling chocolate that people didn't really want at that time because they were so excited about making their own, but some of the ingredients were hard to find, and sometimes people just wanted to give it as a gift. And so that's eventually the product that I turned it into, which got featured in Vogue and some other really cool places. I'll drop some links in the description so you guys can check that out. And this entire experience and building a product is something that I definitely am much newer at and have a lot more to learn compared to events, which I feel like I kind of figured out. This entire experience was just a really good lesson for me in building something that people want and watching and evolving it based on what they're asking for. And being really passionate and excited about something yourself and putting out there what you wish existed. It took me maybe 6 months to really figure out how to make chocolate, and a lot of it was confusing. And I wish I had a class like the one that I would ultimately put together when I was first getting started, and that was kind of my inspiration for it. So I know that was a brief overview, but hopefully that's helpful if you're putting an event together or just have something that you're passionate about that you want to teach a class about. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I would love to answer them in any way I can.